Let's get the biggest event last week was the European Union, which is currently in pursuit of a new robust economic business and trade and investment alliance with the African continent. Now, with the extinction of the old traditional trade routes hundreds of years ago, Europe has seen its African territories being lured away by China and Russia. Now, the EU is appealing to Africa not to be enticed by the new parables of China and Russia, while preaching a new form of equal partnership with the continent. That was the whole essence of last week's grand EU-Africa summit held in Brussels with Africa's heads of state and big institutions such as the AFDB, including business leaders as well as policy makers. So Africa right now is at a crossroads, and joining me to discuss how Africa should respond to the latest EU economic overtures is a development economist. It's been a very tough time for the EU. Take a quick look at some statistics. EU was the largest trade partner with about 33% of exports to Africa in 2020, despite the pandemic, 31% of imports from non-African countries, and the trade surplus for that year was around 24 billion euros. If you look at 2021, which of course is the year after, EU exports increased by 21 billion euros to the continent, imports increased by 14 billion, while trade surplus went down to about 4 billion euros. We're going to talk to these numbers now that Europe wants Africa to remain in his kitty and to push aside the Chinese and the Russians. So what is this oiling all about? Professor Ken Ife is joining me from Abuja Studios. Good to see you again on the show tonight, Professor Ken Ife. It's good to have you. We appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Africa is the bride right now, and suitors are coming in left, right, and center. Last week, it was the turn of the European Union to say, I love you, to us here on the continent. Give me the summary of that 2 days event, in your opinion, in Brussels.
I think this is genuine love, and I can see a consummation of this marriage in the gates of heaven. I think the critical thing is that we have been well represented by our heads of states. They have gone there not to beg for aid, but to talk about business, genuine partnership. And all the 8 areas that have been identified are followed by a rigorous program that will build this capacity of Africa businesses and African economy to support itself. And in a way, I mean, I can't glorify the fact that we have COVID, but I can say that COVID actually has provided an opportunity for us to sit down, and the EU is saying to us, we're going to work with you on Africa health sovereignty. We're going to work with you on common agenda for manufacturing vaccines, all kinds of diagnostics and therapeutics. That is building our capacity to trade and to produce the products that are founded on our agroecology. I think it's incredible. We're no longer talking about subsidy this, aid for trade. We've gone past that right now, and it's good news.
Well, the EU is asking Africa to stay close to Europe as its traditional allies instead of Russia and China. But has Africa ever gotten a good deal with the EU, by the way? You're painting a very rosy picture, but has it always been rosy, Professor?
No, it hasn't ever been rosy, to be honest with you. I mean, the economic partnership agreements that are still there, some of them have not been signed completely. I mean, Nigeria hasn't signed. And we have issues. We have issues around the subsidy. We have issues on the accumulation, rules of origin. And now Africa is now a single economic entity, AFCTA. So it's a different ballgame.
Professor Ken, sorry to cut it. Is Europe scared of the AFCFTA that for the first time in decades, we are beginning to speak with one voice, and then looking at the hands of friendship from China and Russia, and the Americans are not giving up as well. So is that the reason for this new love expression, economically speaking, from Brussels, France, Paris, whatever? to Africa. Is that the case here, or they really genuinely believe that we are equal partners?
The thing is that this is a product of the circumstances. And of course, you know the tension and the economic disparity. You know America has its issues with China, and Russia has its issues with Europe, and everybody's looking into the future. And Africa represents the future. The opportunities in Africa to do business and to prosperity and growth. You know, we have the momentum for growth. And that's why we are a beautiful bride. And they're saying to you that we are your closest neighbor, we are your traditional partners, we want to seal this marriage. And I'm telling you, this is not empty talk. It's real solid programs that if we translate them into action plan, Africa will be transformed.
A few years ago, Professor, that we had this same EU-Africa summit, whatever, and about 63 points of agreement, kind of, that was there. Had Europe been faithful to us as a suitor so far that we can trust the French, the German, everybody else, the Spanish? Can we trust the EU? Can Africa trust them this time around?
I don't think they're asking you to trust them. They are giving you an offer that you cannot refuse. When somebody says to you, all right, I know we've been dancing about this all over. We've told you to just focus on raw material and give it to us. We'll process them, keep the job, and then send it for you to consume. When you send the raw material, they return them. They reject them because it doesn't meet this requirement, ABC requirements. You tell them, okay, instead of giving us all this aid, can we use this aid to trade, to improve trade and build trade capacity? They're talking about, it's okay, why don't you just remove your subsidy so that our prices will be competitive? And you have issues, many of them won't. Their farmers won't let them. So all of these issues have been swept aside. I'm telling you, Boason, believe you me, this document is the foundation of an economic future for Africa.
You're sounding very optimistic.
I want you to take it.
Yeah, you sounding very optimistic.
Look at it at its face value.
Yeah. Okay, so what should be the deciding factor of Africa's economic diplomacy on our own side? We know what the Europeans want. What do we want in Africa? How should we negotiate? Are we negotiating right?
We are negotiating right because there was a good preparation for this meeting, and the outcome justify the optimism. I've talked about the first one. Now, the second one is the debt sustainability. We're not asking them forgive all our debts. No, we're saying to them, support the debt service suspension, which they say they're supporting. We're asking them, can we have some of your SDR, the special drawing right, or the IMF special drawing right, and bring them in to support 100 billion liquidity? Yes, we are coming to meet you there. How about some country? Everything we ask for, just to, take off the heat. They are agreeing with us. Then we come to combating the illicit transfer. Africa loses $84 billion every year on illicit transfer. And they're saying to us, look, it is as much a problem for us as it is for you. For Africa, we are losing 84 billion. For the developed world, they are using almost 250 billion. Most of their tax depend on corporate tax. And corporate tax is where you have all this issue of tax-based erosion. So they're concerned. So we are collaborating all the tax, because the multinational companies are using the tax differences to manipulate the system. So we are working together now as constructive partner. And on remittances, they say, well, yeah, for transparent remittances, we'll support you. We'll force a reduction in the cost of transfer. Take it, every issue, EU investment, EU-Africa investment, they put 150 billion on the table. Not as grant, but to use it to develop knowledge transfer partnership, voluntary transfer of technology, and then focus on health, focus on education. They're putting it straight into building capacity. So it's not just about give it to me. There is a grant. No. We're talking business in equal terms.
Professor Ken, if we'll come back after the break, because with as sweet as this deal looks to you, the Chinese and the Russians also have something on the table. The question is, should we take it or we should leave it? We'll be right back, everyone. Okay, we're back with discussing the latest EU-Africa Business Summit last week. Who is who? were there. President, head of state, policymakers, the head of the FDB with his entire team, Dr. Akumi Adesina, and a whole lot more policymakers and businesses. All about the EU asking Africa not to go away, but to stay put as a traditional economic partner. As this time, it's an equal partnership. But the Chinese and Russians are also beckoning for Africa, bringing billions of dollars, $23 billion thereabout, is what China has spent over the last few years on the African continent. So I'm asking Professor Ken Ife, a development economist at our Abuja studios this evening, whether we should turn our back now on China. About $25 billion on the table. Should we tell the Chinese to go, or we should have a bit of every pie on the table?
I think we should have every pie on the table. I don't think that these partnerships are mutually exclusive. They are mutually inclusive. So we shouldn't turn anybody away. And by the way, 150 billion is not all that we need. We need trillions of dollars of investment. So we should be open to whoever wants to work with us.
You think we can manage? You think we can manage all these relationships? The Europeans, the Americans, the Chinese, the Russia, and the same African continent. You think it's in our best interest, Professor?
No. Look, China came to us about 1995 and thereabout, around the 2000, and said, "Look, we are not a grant-giving country. We want to do business with you. We will buy raw materials from you at a fair price." And that fair price was what started the transformation of Africa economy, and we started growing rapidly. Now, last week, I didn't hear about those ideas that you should only supply us raw materials and we'll process them and send it. We need 80% of your market. We've gone past that. That's not what the language I was hearing last week. The language I'm hearing last week is that, oh, we've had you. We are now, let's use example. 90 to 100% of all the raw materials, active pharmaceutical ingredients used by our pharmaceutical company are imported. And during COVID, India and Indonesia, they're not supplying anything to us. So our pharmaceutical companies couldn't operate. And despite we didn't have COVID, we didn't have a vaccine, and they promised us 20% of our population will get vaccine. Now we are struggling. How many years down the line we still haven't got anything near what was promised? But here they're saying, don't hold my word for it. Even though I'm saying I'm going to give you 450 million, no. We will work with you. We will bring the technology we have. We will work with you on your own technology and do transfer and develop your own capacity to produce these vaccines, produce pharmaceuticals, and all the fauna we need here. We have all the agroecology for everything that is needed to produce these things. They're now talking a completely different language. And that's why we should take it seriously.
You're saying we should take every deal on the table, but again, there's a price to be paid at the end of the day. How do you think we will proceed with these deals? Will it be on a regional basis, on a country-by-country basis, or you think the African Union will negotiate it on behalf of the rest of us and begin to share it around the 55 countries on the continent? How will it work, practically speaking?
No. In the end of the day, the African Union is just a facilitating agency, just like ECOWAS is a facilitating body. But in the end of the day, if you are going to build a road from Kenya through Nigeria to say Nigeria will be responsible for the component of that road that passes through Nigeria. So if there are 15 countries on the way, there will be 15 contracts. Each country will be responsible for the segment that passes through them. So that is it. There's no such thing as ECOWAS borrowing money and being and providing collateral for it. No. There's no such thing as African Union borrowing $10 billion to build this road, and they, as African Union Secretariat, will find collateral. No. It has to still be broken down to which component of this scheme passes through your country. So in the end of the day, it has to be still based to the country. So we still have to look at it on a case-by-case basis to see which one will fly. And then, of course, all these things that we have been worrying about, waiver of sovereign immunity in a Chinese contract and all of that, we now have a position where we can say no to this contract. We don't want this. That doesn't fit. We can now say no to some proposals and now say, look at what we are doing with Europe. I think what we have got with Europe last week is a standard template that we should put in front of any bloc that wants to do business with Africa. To say, this is the prism through which we want to look at your proposal.
But my final note, Professor, if you look at Africa as a whole, what sectors do you think we should ask the Europeans to partner with us and very quickly?
Well, you cannot dictate, because it has to be, there are several sectors. There's no sector you will say, work only on this. It's all going to be still down to what the comparative advantage for each country that is in which area, because some people are more advanced in some area than some. Nigeria's infrastructure is so key, and human resource development is also, so we have different strengths and different opportunities. So they have to look at what you can support, where there's a solid business case. It's not grant that you are saying, okay, give us grant only here. No, it's business. So whatever business proposition that makes sense, that is bankable in any segment or sector or subsector, they may want to support that.
Professor Ken, if a development economist, we thank you so much for your time. As always, have a wonderful evening there in Abuja, discussing the latest EU-African Union summit, a new handshake across the Mediterranean of Africa by the EU.